All right, so today we're going to dive into Sweet Bobby,
Okay.
this Netflix documentary that really I think is going to have you looking at all your online interactions a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got all of our notes and research, and we watched the documentary, of course.
Yes.
And we're ready to unpack this really wild catfishing scheme that went on for like almost a decade.
Yeah, almost a decade. And I think one of the most shocking parts is that, the perpetrator wasn't some like shadowy figure hiding in some, corner of the internet.
Right.
It was actually somebody within the victim's own family.
Talk about a plot twist, right? So we're talking about Kirat Assi. She's this successful radio presenter in London,
Mm-hmm.
and she meets this guy, Bobby John Doe, online.
Right.
He's supposedly this like charming cardiologist living in New York.
Yeah, it sounds great.
They connect on Facebook. They have mutual friends from their Sikh community. Everything seems
Right.
totally normal at first.
Totally. Yeah, and that's, I think, what makes this case so intriguing. This foundation of deception is built on this pre-existing trust and these shared connections.
Absolutely.
This wasn't just some random profile, Simran Bogle, who is the mastermind behind Bobby.
Right.
She, meticulously crafted this persona over years.
So, okay, so Bobby, the cardiologist, he's like showering Kirat with attention. Right. Constant messages, long phone calls, these incredibly detailed stories about his life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one big problem.
Yeah, what's that?
They never actually meet.
Ah, yeah, and that's where the manipulation starts to take hold.
Right.
So Bobby, he weaves this, intricate web of excuses for why they can't meet,
What?
First, it's witness protection. Then it's these sudden health scares, family emergencies.
Wow. Yeah, so it's just excuse after excuse.
Classic catfishing.
Yeah.
Keeping the victim emotionally invested while preventing any real-world interaction that could expose the truth.
So Kirat's getting deeper and deeper into this relationship,
Right.
completely unaware that Bobby doesn't even exist. So did the documentary shed any light on the psychology behind Simran's actions?
Mm-hmm.
What would drive someone to maintain this level of deception for almost a decade?
It's a really complex question, and I don't think the documentary offers any easy answers.
Right.
But what we can analyze is the behavior.
Yeah.
The constant excuses, the playing on Kirat's emotions, just this constant drip feeding of just enough information to keep her hooked.
Right.
These are all textbook manipulation tactics
Yeah.
that are used to exert control and to prevent the victim from questioning the situation too closely.
It's almost like she was creating this alternate reality,
Hmm.
not just for Kirat, but also for herself.
Right.
This web of lies, it spiraled into over 60 fictional characters,
Yeah, it's crazy.
all designed to make Bobby's world seem real.
Yeah, and that speaks to the level of planning and commitment involved.
Yeah.
This wasn't just some kind of spur-of-the-moment prank. This was a sustained effort that consumed a significant portion of her life.
It's mind-boggling to think about the time and energy
Totally.
that was invested in this whole fabrication.
Yeah.
But as we see in the documentary, things take an even darker turn.
Okay.
Bobby's behavior starts to escalate and becomes increasingly controlling.
Right. So we see this classic pattern of abuse emerge,
Mm-hmm.
isolating Kirat from her real-life relationships, dictating her social interactions, even controlling what she wears.
Wow.
And this is all happening online without any physical contact.
Yeah.
Which I think really highlights how damaging emotional abuse can be, regardless of whether it's happening in person or through a screen.
This is the part that really gets to me.
Yeah.
Kirat, despite never meeting Bobby face to face, she's completely emotionally invested
Right.
in this relationship.
Yeah,
And then to find out it was all a lie and that it was orchestrated by her own cousin.
I know.
I can't even imagine.
It's devastating. And what makes it even more disturbing is that Kirat wasn't even Simran's first victim.
Oh, really?
The documentary kind of suggests that there was this pattern of catfishing behavior.
Wow. Indicating that there's this deeper issue with manipulation and control.
So how did this whole twisted scheme finally unravel? After years of believing in this online relationship, what made Kirat finally uncover the truth?
Well, the turning point comes when Kirat decides to take matters into her own hands.
Okay.
She tracks down the real Bobby John Doe, the person whose identity Simran had stolen,
Wow.
and she confronts him,
Oh my gosh.
which is a pretty brave move.
Yeah.
And this leads to the shocking revelation that Bobby never actually existed.
And I bet that confrontation was a defining moment in the documentary.
Yeah.
When the illusion is shattered and the truth comes pouring out.
Totally. Yeah, it was like this really intense moment,
Yeah.
seeing the weight of all those lies just come crashing down.
Yeah.
Imagine, the emotional turmoil that Kirat must felt,
Oh, absolutely.
betrayed by somebody she trusted, grieving a relationship that never even existed.
Totally. And then on top of that, she has to deal with the legal complexities of this whole situation. Right. And the documentary brings up this really interesting legal point.
Okay.
Back in 2020, when this was all happening,
Right.
catfishing, it wasn't even a crime in the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So even though she had gone through all this emotional and psychological harm,
Right?
she faced this huge uphill battle trying to get justice.
So it's something that calculated and damaging,
Yeah.
it wasn't even illegal.
It's crazy, right?
That just seems wild, especially considering how widespread catfishing is these days.
It really does seem like this major gap in the legal system, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Kirat's case really exposed that, like, how inadequate the laws were to deal with this kind of online deception.
Totally.
It sparked this really important conversation about how we balance freedom of expression with the need to protect people
Right.
from these online manipulations.
So what happened? Did Kirat end up finding any legal recourse?
She did.
Okay.
Even though she couldn't, like, pursue criminal charges,
Right.
she decided to file a civil action against Simran.
Wow.
It was a long process.
Yeah, I bet.
Very emotionally draining,
Yeah.
but she won.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she got a private apology and a financial settlement.
To have the strength and the determination to fight for justice after everything she went through,
Right.
that's so inspiring.
It really speaks volumes about her resilience.
Yeah.
And it shows how powerful individual action can be to drive change even when the system's kind of working against you.
And she didn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
She used her platform to advocate for broader legal reforms.
Exactly. She turned her pain into purpose.
Yeah.
And she became this really vocal advocate for making the laws around catfishing and online harassment stronger. Her story helped raise awareness about just how damaging these deceptions can be.
Yeah.
And it started all these important conversations about how we can better protect people in the digital age.
What strikes me about this whole case
Yeah.
is that it's not just this really gripping true crime story.
Right.
Sweet Bobby brings up some really big questions about trust and identity and how the lines between reality and fabrication get so blurry online.
Totally. It's like a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront those very real dangers that are lurking online. And it makes us ask, how can we safeguard ourselves and how can we build genuine connections when it's becoming harder and harder to tell what's real?
Right. And it also seems like the documentary touched on those unique pressures and expectations within the Sikh community.
Yeah, definitely.
And how those might have played a role in Simran's motivations, but also Kirat's vulnerability.
Absolutely. That cultural lens adds this whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that these acts of deception, they don't just happen out of nowhere. They're shaped by societal norms, family dynamics, cultural pressures.
Yeah.
All these things can create vulnerabilities and opportunities for manipulation.
It's like the documentary is peeling back all these layers, showing us not just the details of the catfishing scheme,
Right.
but also these broader social and psychological forces at play.
It makes you think about your own online interactions.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
Sure.
One thing that really stuck with me was how the documentary went into the psychological tactics that catfishers use.
Yeah.
Like the manipulation, the control, the way they slowly chip away at the victim's self-esteem.
Right. And that's a crucial part of this whole story because it helps us understand the impact of this abuse.
Yeah.
It's not just about the lies and the betrayal. It's about how they systematically dismantled a person's sense of self,
Right.
their ability to trust their
Yeah.
confidence in their own judgment.
It's a violation of trust on so many levels.
Totally.
Trust in the online world, trust in your own perceptions, trust in your own family. It's no wonder Kirat's story resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
This could happen to anybody.
It really could, and that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Sweet Bobby. It's a reminder that none of us are immune to the risks of online deception.
Right.
We all need to be vigilant about protecting ourselves emotionally in the digital world.
So what advice would you give to our listeners who are trying to navigate online dating or even just making friends online?
Well, I think a healthy dose of skepticism is always a good starting point.
Okay.
Be wary of profiles that seem too good to be true.
Right.
Be careful about sharing personal information too quickly.
Yeah.
And pay attention to any inconsistencies in their stories or behavior.
Those are some really great tips.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to remember that you're not alone.
Totally.
If something feels off,
Yeah.
if you have any doubts.
Don't be afraid to reach out
Yeah.
to a friend, a family member, even law enforcement.
Right.
For support and guidance.
Absolutely. We often hesitate to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we feel embarrassed or ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so important to break the silence and seek help when you need it.
For sure, there are resources available, and there are people who care.
So while Sweet Bobby shows us this really dark side of the online world,
Yeah.
it also highlights the resilience of the human spirit. Kirat's story is ultimately a story of strength and courage, and using your voice to make positive change.
It's a testament to the fact that even after experiencing unimaginable betrayal and manipulation,
Right.
we can still find the strength to heal, reclaim our stories, and fight for a safer and more authentic online world.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see how she turned this experience into something positive. Advocating for these stronger laws, raising awareness
Yeah.
about the dangers of online deception. She didn't let it define her.
Totally.
She used it to empower others.
Absolutely. And her story reminds us that, even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
we can still choose how we respond to adversity.
Yeah.
You can let it break you, or you can use it as an opportunity for growth and for healing and for change.
Sweet Bobby could leave you feeling really cynical about online interactions.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's a testament to that human strength
Absolutely.
and the importance of standing up for what's right.
It's a call to action, for all of us to be more aware, more discerning, and more empowered in our online interactions.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this case,
Okay.
what's like the one key takeaway that you want our listeners to think about?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that deception, it can be lurking anywhere. It's not always, some shadowy figure on the internet.
Right.
Sometimes it's someone we know.
Yeah.
Someone we trust.
Someone in our own family even.
Exactly.
Yeah. That is a chilling thought, but an important truth to acknowledge.
It is.
Sweet Bobby really shows us we need to be careful,
Yeah.
Online and offline, and just trust our instincts.
Trust your gut.
If something feels wrong,
Yeah.
it probably is.
Exactly. You got to find that balance between being open to connecting with people,
Right.
but also being cautious.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to end on.
Yeah.
Finding that balance, educating ourselves, trusting our gut.
And remember, Sweet Bobby, it's just one story.
Right.
But it shows this much bigger problem that's happening more and more
Yeah.
as we spend more time online,
Totally.
So the more we talk about these things, the more we can help each other stay safe.
If you haven't already, definitely check out Sweet Bobby on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's a documentary that'll stick with you.
It will.
And if you have seen it, let us know.
Yeah.
What did you think?
What surprised you?
What questions are you left with?
Let's keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Because the more we share our experiences, the better prepared we'll be to deal with the ups and downs of online relationships.
That's it for our deep dive into Sweet Bobby.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
And stay safe.
Out there, day